What a mistake you made.
The general manager reprimands me and throws materials at me. I was surprised, not knowing what he was talking about, and he blamed me for the failure of the deal. But it was all his idea. My name is Chris. I work in sales for a manufacturer of interior and leisure goods. Home centers and mass merchandisers are my main customers. I went to college in the city, but came back to my hometown to work. I have a good relationship with my clients, and some of them want me to be in charge of their business. I answer calls from clients within 3 calls and reply to emails immediately. Whenever I was asked to explain about a product, I went to the customer's office to explain it in person. I believe that trust is built on the accumulation of these small efforts. I have made it my motto to be sincere in my dealings with others. Thanks to that, my sales performance is one of the best in our department.
As usual, you're doing great. Keep up the good work and get us more contracts.
When I returned to the head office after my rounds, I was approached by Mr. Max, the sales manager. Thanks to your guidance, sir. He nodded happily at my words and went to talk to another employee. The general manager has a troublesome personality with violent emotional ups and downs. Just when he was praising someone, he would suddenly start yelling at them. He used to get angry at me when I was new, but nowadays, he rarely complains to me because of my good performance. However, he is very strict with employees who fail to meet their quotas. Many of them quit because they could not stand his reprimands. Nevertheless, the reason why the general manager was not accused of power harassment must be because he is the nephew of the president. The Human Resources Department also has a family member of the president, so he must have been liaising with the president. Our company is a typical family business. I have a feeling that the president favors his relatives, which makes me feel uneasy. That is why I have a secret ambition to improve my performance, get promoted, and eventually change the company system. But those ambitions were dashed. One day, I was summoned by the general manager. When I went to the meeting room, I was nervous about what was going to happen. But he said something unexpected.
I thought I would introduce you to my daughter.
Introduce me to your daughter? I can't help but ask back at the abrupt and superior tone of his words.
That's right. It's about my daughter's marriage.
I didn't expect to be approached with an offer of marriage while I was at work.
My daughter saw the group photo and took a liking to you. If you become my son, I can promise you a bright future.
Does he mean that he will eventually invite me to join the management team? It's a tempting offer, but I can't accept it. I have been with my girlfriend for 10 years. The reason I didn't get a job in the city is because I had my girlfriend behind in my hometown. My girlfriend had been working as an office worker in our hometown after graduating from high school. The director of the department must have known that I had a long-time girlfriend. I have a girlfriend, so I can't accept the offer. If I did not refuse clearly, I might get into trouble. So I said no. But the boss said something outrageous.
Oh, you're still dating a mere high school graduate? If you want to get ahead, you should marry a college-educated girl like my daughter. Break up with her now.
I'm so mad when he calls my girlfriend a mere high school graduate. My girlfriend waited for me when we were in a long-distance relationship and never complained. Even though my work is hard, I have been able to do my best because I have a future with her. I have no intention to leave her. Please take back your insulting comments about her.
What's wrong with telling the truth? Or are you challenging me?
We glared at each other. I have never rebelled against my boss since I joined the company. But this was the one time I couldn't give in. I don't mean to challenge you, but I can't accept your offer because I have a very important girlfriend. When I again clearly refused, the director clicked his tongue.
You are very stubborn. Well, it's alright. I'm sure you will ask me to introduce my daughter to you someday.
The boss said that and walked out of the meeting room. I texted my friend to relieve my anger and asked him to listen to my complaint. Shane, a former classmate of mine from high school, agreed to meet me after work. You won't believe it. My boss! I told Shane about what happened today. Shane is nodding his head and listening to me.
Why don't you get a new job instead of working for a boss like that? You'd be a good candidate for another company, wouldn't you?
Shane is actually an assistant manager of a home improvement center. He sometimes handles things as a deputy manager. The salary is good, and I don't think it's a good idea to leave my current company. I think it would be a waste to change jobs just because I don't like the manager. As I was mumbling to myself, Shane said to me,
I think changing jobs is one of the options. So today, I want to introduce you to someone I know, okay?
Shane then makes a phone call to someone. A few minutes later, I meet with a certain someone. I'm going to be thankful for this meeting. The next few days went on as usual. Since I spent most of my time on the sales rounds, I didn't have much time to see my boss. One day, when I returned to the sales department after my rounds, there was a commotion. What's wrong? When I called out to him, there was a pervasive silence. Then, as if to break the silence, I heard the voice of the manager.
What a blunder you've made!
I was the one whom he was looking at.
The mass retailer with whom he had been discussing the deal has turned us down. They said we haven't been contacting them at all, so they're going with someone else. You're in charge. What were you doing?
The general manager throws a document at me. I was the one who was surprised at his words. That's where I put my efforts into selling. It was a large volume retailer. They turned us down. I was the one in charge, but they never called me. And we were still waiting for the manager's final confirmation. The deal was close to being closed. However, the manager stopped the meeting because he wanted to confirm the deals one last time. I urged him again and again, but I believe he had not given his okay yet. Then, he said,
I told you to go ahead with the business meeting because I have already confirmed it. I can't believe you didn't listen to me. This is a blunder.
That's not possible. I always write down the date, time, and contents of important notices when I receive them. But I never received any notice from you. I argued with him, but he just sighed.
You must have forgotten the memo. I'm going to have to fire you, since it was going to be a big deal.
I'm suddenly fired.
A senior staff member who's so diligent would forget to write a memo? Shouldn't the boss take responsibility for his subordinate's failure?
Such voices can be heard from the people around me. But when the boss glares at them, they all fall silent. I didn't hear any more voices defending me. I didn't want him to glare at me either, so I had no choice. He whispers to my ear and says, I can make it easier on you if you like. But why don't you focus on your job and not in your high school graduate girlfriend? I knew what he meant by that statement. He wants me to break up with my girlfriend and proceed with a marriage with his daughter. So, that is what you mean? Then, I don't care if I get fired. My words caused even more commotion around us. The manager's expression changed for a moment, but I guess he thought there were plenty of people who would replace me. It's a shame to lose you, a good employee. But since you've brought disadvantage to the company, you may as well be fired. I suppressed my frustration and said, a good employee, huh? I am honored by your kind words. From now on, I would like to work even harder in a company where there are no unreasonable bosses like you," I said sarcastically, and he stopped laughing.
Who's an unreasonable boss?
He says and comes at me. "It's you. I guess you wanted to fire me, so you interfered with the deal. Just because I turned down your daughter's proposal, doesn't that mean you're too selfish? It's unbecoming of a manager to bring disadvantage to the company." I told him what I wanted to say.
How dare you talk back to your boss?
Naturally, the boss gets angry, but it doesn't matter. He's not my boss anymore anyway. The boss is red-faced and angry, but the reaction of the others is cold.
So, you're saying he ruined the deal because of his personal feelings?
Yeah, that's unreasonable.
The employees, who usually do not dare to disobey the general manager, are talking amongst themselves. It seems that even the general manager is getting uncomfortable.
Anyway, you're fired. Pack up your stuff. With a single word from me, you can be fired so easily.
With that, he leaves the department. Maybe he's going to talk to the president, or HR. I was curious about the manager's action, but I wanted to know first what happened to the business meeting I was in charge of. I called the person in charge of the large retail store that was supposed to be my business partner. "Mr. Max called me to tell me that the person in charge had changed a little while ago. So I told Mr. Max about the refusal." I knew that he had set up the whole thing and intentionally ruined the deal. I guess he was trying to drive me away. I don't want to work for such a boss. So I called the guy who Shane and I had been drinking with before. "I would like to take the job you offered me the other day, if possible." When I told him that, he sounded pleased. The person I called was an acquaintance of Shane's. He works in the sales department of one of our competitors. He said that he was distributing products to a home improvement center where Shane works, just like her company. He told Shane that the sales department was short on staff and he was looking for someone good. Shane suggested that if I wanted to change jobs, this was the place to do it. Shane's acquaintance acted as a bridge between me and my new boss. Thus, I decided to change my job and officially resign from my company. However, before I left, there was a dispute. The HR manager started to try to persuade me that Mr. Max couldn't dismiss me on disciplinary grounds just because I had lost one business deal. Mr. Max is pressuring HR to fire me. However, as a company, they can't fire me unfairly. So the HR manager asked me to voluntarily resign, which was an unbelievable request made by someone who is supposed to protect employees. The general manager said that he would talk to the president, but in reality, it seems that he was just putting pressure on the HR department. Perhaps he thought that if he told the president would point out that the boss should take responsibility for his subordinate's failure. I guess the clever manager wanted to get me to quit so that the president would not find out about it. I don't know about the relationship between Mr. Max and the HR manager, but it seems that Mr. Max is in a higher position than the HR manager. I'm not only disgusted with Mr. Max, but also with the HR manager. I thought that there was no future for me in this kind of company, and I decided to resign from the company myself. And after I finished handing tasks over to my juniors, I changed jobs to a rival company after I had finished the process. The rival company was smaller in scale than my former company, but because of the smaller size, the management and the front line were closer, so it was easier to communicate with them. Selling your own product is important, but that is not enough to build a relationship of trust with your customers. By proposing a sales floor layout that combines the products of other companies, The store owner will think that you're considering the store's performance. I put my sales experience to good use and actively offered my opinions. My bosses and management listened to me seriously. They immediately entrusted me with an existing client. I am a workaholic, but since my new job, I have been putting more effort into my work. I went to talk to the people in the product planning department to understand the products more deeply, and I even went to the stores on my days off to study the sales floor. My new boss recognized my efforts and supported me to the best of his ability. This is a far cry from someone who was dragging his subordinates down. A few months after my job, the sales of the company tripled. There is a reason why sales have increased so much. Our kitchen utensils were introduced on an afternoon news program. I had been pushing this kitchen appliance since I had just started my new job, and I had been telling the managers of the home improvement stores that it would definitely be popular. The introduction on the TV has a tremendous effect. I was sure that there would be a response, so I increased the stock of the product in all the stores. My prediction was right on the money, and we ran out of stock, especially on the weekend after the broadcast. Since then, it has become one of our most popular products and is still selling well. The manager of the home improvement center told me, "Thanks to the sales of your products, related products of other companies are also selling well. It is because of your suggestions on the layout of the sales floor." One day after changing jobs, I met a junior colleague from my former company at a home improvement center. The junior colleague told me the inside story of my former company. It seems that after I left the company, the employees in the sales department left one after another. I guess they distrusted the company after they saw the fact that the general manager fired me because of his personal feelings. Rumors spread that I was forced to resign voluntarily by HR, and sales in the sales department declined as employees left. The president asked the general manager what was going on. The general manager tried to keep quiet, but the rumors had reached the president's ears. The general manager, who realized that he could not get away with it, was forced to tell him the story of how he had ruined a major business deal. The president was furious and demoted Mr. Max. The HR manager was given a research assignment for disturbing the order in the company.
It sounds like he's had a tough time since he was demoted. He seems to be uncomfortable at work, but I guess he must be having a rough time at home as well. I saw him on the street being yelled at by what looked like his wife and daughter. He looks intimidating at the company, but he is weak at home, I guess.
The junior staff member told me this with a laugh. Perhaps he was venting his stress at home at the office. The night I heard such a story, I received a phone call from the manager. I had never received a phone call from him, even when I had been with the company.
"Please, can you come back? We have too few employees to do the job."
When I answered the phone, he sounded like he was about to cry. The president must have been really pressuring him too. I can feel his panic. "I can't go back because I've already changed jobs. I heard that the reason why the employees left was because of your attitude." The general manager chokes up at my words.
"Then, will you at least marry my daughter? I already promised my daughter that I would introduce you to her. If I break my promise, she says she'll cut off ties with me."
Now, the boss sounded like he was really going to cry. He said that he tried to introduce other candidates to his daughter after that, but for some reason, she insisted on me. But marrying the boss's daughter is more impossible than going back to the company. Of course it's impossible. I've already made wedding plans with my girlfriend. And I hate the thought of calling you father, I said firmly and hung up the phone. I blocked his phone number. He must have lost his executive allowance because of the demotion. I'm sure his wife is blaming him. I can imagine him in tears when his daughter tells him that she is going to cut ties off with him. It's all his own fault. I don't know what happened to him, but I can imagine that he is feeling ashamed both at work and at home. I received a special allowance from my new company for my contribution to the company's sales. I intend to use the allowance to pay for my wedding. From now on, I want to take care of not only my job, but also my family.